our lifespan psychology course, we have interviewed an individual in late adulthood, which is considered 60 years of age or older. Our subject is Emily Loretta Lee, who is almost 96 years old. We have interviewed Mrs. Lee in an effort to evaluate her in terms of where she is in her lifespan, in relation to several famous theories, including Erikson's psychosocial stage theory, Piaget's cognitive stage theory, and Bronfenbrenner's ecological systems theory. Mrs. Emily Loretta Lee is the grandmother of Allison, a member of our research team. To provide some background information, we asked Allison how she would best describe her grandmother. Allison said she is super hardworking. She worked all the way up until she was 90 years old and has beat breast cancer not once, but 2 times. She doesn't let anything hold her back. She is an awesome and very devoted mother, grandma, great-grandma, and great-great-grandma. Allison goes on to say she is the type of person who would do anything for anyone. She is so nice and sweet. With informed consent, it is our pleasure to introduce you to Mrs. Emily Loretta Lee.
So the first question is, when looking back on your life, do you seem to dwell more on regrets, or do you have a sense of contentment and feel that overall your life was well lived?
Well, I feel like I'm happy that I've accomplished. I've got a happy family. It lives close to me. I have my house paid off, and I am happy with life.
Mrs. Lee, looking back on her life and analyzing why she believes she had a good one, points to Erikson's final stage of development, which is integrity versus despair. In this stage, individuals tend to gain a sense of wisdom. During this stage, Erikson claims that the individual both has the ability to look back on their life in an objective way, accepting the outcomes that turned out well, and also sometimes looking back on their life with a bitter sense that certain negative occurrences cannot be changed. In this case, the subject tends to focus on the positive when looking back on her life thus far.
Okay. Second question is, have you been able to achieve a state of peace and contentment in your later years? If so, how? If not, why not? So pretty much, are you at peace with your life now?
Well, I feel like I've achieved, accomplished what I don't have any college education or anything, but I feel like I've been content with life. I've been happy. I have a happy family, and they live close to me to where I can enjoy them, and I've just been happy with everything.
This also points to Erikson's final stage of development, integrity versus despair. As Mrs. Lee reflects on her life, she determines that she is content with her choices and how things have turned out. Overall, she is happy with her life, particularly because of the love she has for her family.
Okay, next question is, what was your home life and your relationships with your immediate family members like when you were a child?
Well, I had, there was 4 of us. I had two brothers and a sister, and we lived during the Depression where there wasn't anything.
Yeah.
We had to work in the fields, and we had to, each of us had a cow we had to milk every night, and my mom had a garden that she put, and we survived. A lot of people didn't survive because they weren't as lucky as we were to have a house.
Yeah.
This question gives insight into the microsystem of Bronfenbrenner's ecological system theory. The microsystem refers to the environment, including school, home, neighborhood, immediate family, etc. Her answer to this question gives us information about what her microsystem looked like growing up. It sounds like she had a loving and very hardworking family. They all had to make it through the Depression, which likely was traumatic for her and her family. As a child, this must have been especially difficult and likely influenced her overall life perspective in many ways.
Okay, next question is, do you feel that your relationship with your family members at home impacted the way you relate to teachers and peers at school? So do you feel like your relationship with your family like impacted the way you act, like how you treated your teachers at school and friends at school when you were younger?
Well, when we were younger, I went to a real small school where I only had one or two teachers.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I went to high school, it seemed like what I remember was don't remember any teachers or accomplishments except that I just wanted to graduate from high school.
Yeah.
This question also relates to Bronfenbrenner's ecological system theory, specifically the mesosystem. The mesosystem is a network of interconnections between various elements of the microsystem. This question is in regards to the relationship between her home life and school. She appears to perhaps not remember certain details of her years in school, but she does remember how she felt in high school. Her strong sense of wanting to graduate high school is something that has stuck with her throughout her life.
Okay, next question. Looking back on your childhood, what influenced you the most? What institutions influence you now in your later adulthood? So, what influenced you when you were a child?
Well, I wanted to graduate from high school, and then I was thinking maybe of going with nursing. I was real close to my sister, and when we got out of high school, we got a job at the hospital,
Mm-hmm.
serving serving people, and my sister and I were inseparable. And then when we'd get off work, we'd go roller skating. I loved to roller skate. There was a roller skating rink.
Mm-hmm. Is there anything that influences you now in your later adulthood? Like anything that influences you, like society or anything like that?
No.
No.
This question stemmed from the exosystem of Bronfenbrenner's ecological system theory. The exosystem refers to the societal institutions that indirectly influence a person's development. Examples of this include the media, the child's school. She explained that once again, she was very eager to graduate high school and get a job with her sister. They both went to work in a hospital, and perhaps that decision influenced her next career choice. She also states that absolutely nothing in society today influences her.
Okay, next question. How did the careers of your family influence your choice of career? So did like your family members influence you to like get a career?
Well, not really. We just were at the time in our life then. It was during the Depression, and we were just wanting to survive and be able to get by.
Yeah. Any job was probably good at that point.
Yeah, and I had a job at the hospital. My sister and I worked there for serving patients, and we had to make sure that we took the right thing to the right patient. Our dietitian would tell us, or we would cause them to get sick and die, and we worked there for. We stayed there, and then we got $50 a month was our pay.
Oh wow, that's crazy.
This question also helps us to gain insight into the exosystem of her younger years. Since the start of her life, the focus was survival and simply getting by. At that time, going to college and establishing a career wasn't necessarily possible. It seems as though any job found was a good job.
Okay, next question. Can you name a few changes that you've noticed in your individual and historical development that has affected your life? So, can you name any changes that has affected you in your later years, that like maybe history or anything like that that's changed your life?
Not really.
The Chronos system is about the many different events, people, and locations in someone's life that have shaped who they are in terms of their development. Although we know that the interactions we have with others do in fact shape who we are, she did not state any particular event or change in her life that she believed shaped her as a person.
Okay, next question. What would be your first step in attempting to achieve world peace?
Well, I think one thing to not have all this protesting and stuff that we have going on now.
This question relates to Piaget's final stage in his theory, which is the formal operational stage. At this stage, usually occurring at 12 years old and beyond, the individual can make sense of the world through hypothetical thinking. Answering a hypothetical question about how to accomplish world peace tells us that Mrs. Lee does have the ability to think in an abstract way about a hypothetical scenario.
Okay, last question. What advice, if any, would you give your 20-year-old self? So if you were to look back and give any advice to yourself when you were 20 years old, what would it be?
I don't know. When I was 20 years old, I had a family and was happily married.
Yeah.
And I was just trying to accomplish what I could there, like working and bought a home and paid for it all myself.
You had your own home when you were 20 years old?
No.
Oh, yeah.
When I was 20 years old.
Were you working?
When I was 20 years old, I was married.
Yeah.
I was married and raising a family.
Yeah.
I wasn't working anywhere.
And then your career when you were like in your older years, what was your career?
As a waitress.
You were a waitress,
I
right?
worked as a waitress all my life.
Yeah.
Seemed like everywhere I went, I had a job as a waitress, and I was always able to go back to work at the place again. They always liked me, and I always got along with everybody.
Yeah. And then you worked till you were how old?
I worked till I was 90 years old.
As a waitress?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. All right. Well, that's all the questions, so thank you.
Mrs. Lee's answer to this last question shows us her ability to think abstractly and in hypothetical terms according to Piaget's formal operational stage. However, she did not appear to have any advice for her 20-year-old self. She explained that she was happily married at the time and was caring for her family, so she felt content with where she was in her life. In conclusion, the subject, Mrs. Emily Loretta Lee, appears to be a strong woman who has endured well. She has created a close-knit family that she is very proud of. Mrs. Lee provided a copious amount of information about her Chronos system, detailing her life experiences, upbringing, family, education, and work. Her answers to many of these questions, as well as her age of 96 years old, demonstrate that she falls into the final stage of Erikson's stages of psychological development, which focus on integrity versus despair. Mrs. Lee reflects on her life objectively and can analyze both her accomplishments as well as struggles and hardships.